Today we're going to ask ourselves, how powerful are restricted vintage cards? You know, the most powerful format in the game. We're going to go to Mock Sapphire. That's all I have to say about that. I don't really have to say anything. I mean, it's basically super basic land. You play a basic, you have only access to one basic land a turn. But when you've got the Moxen, Mox Sapphire, Mox Ruby, Mox Emerald, Mox Jet, Mox Pearl, I mean, you can basically play like 3 land drops, 4 land drops on one turn. No green cards required to make your land drops. I mean, this is basically the same it's basically the same damn thing. It's why it's considered power. But the funny thing is, there is a certain point where, you know, basic lands actually have a lot of value because it doesn't get hit by like artifact like Null Rod or Wasteland or anything like that. So not always strictly better, but, you know, better enough that you would lose immediately on turn 1. So yes, these cards are absolutely broken. I have nothing else to say about it. I don't know, is there anything else to discuss? Any card with Mox and or Lotus in the name is either it danger or a flavor fail. Oh, you mean like it's like it's either going to be supremely dangerous or it's like pathetic? Not all Mox are created equal. What are you talking about, like Mox Amber or something? Yeah. They've tried to make them fair in the future. In my opinion, this is not something they should touch. Okay, 0 mana, adding 0 mana artifact to add mana. We don't need to innovate from here. So screw your Mox Ambers and stuff like that. Like we should not be trying to fix the Moxen. We all know the Moxen's broken, banned in Legacy, restricted in Vintage. There's no need to experiment with the science. What are we trying to achieve here? Because it's like Mox Amber. Out of the gates, it was complete garbage, but eventually, you know, players did break the damn card. Now it's a super expensive one. All right, next up, let's move on to Mystic Forge. I have to admit, I have not a damn clue why this got completely broken in half. It's a 4 mana artifact. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library. Tap and pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library. Now, I'll admit, there's a lot of 0 mana cards in this format. So, I mean, for as long as there are Moxen on top of your deck or Black Lotus and so on, you can play those cards for free and really sift through your entire deck. So I imagine it is a massive way to churn through your deck, but I honestly have no idea why it got restricted. Combos with top too easily, it's probably not why it happened. So in a lot of, just like the last time we did this show, why don't we look up the history of Mystic Forge? Mystic Forge restricted BNR announcement. Let's see, when did this happen? Banned and I should put banned and restricted. When did they get rid of this thing? And for what reason? Is this it? Nope, this is not it. I can't find it. Mr. Ford, I mean, hey, it was a really great card in Standard at the time. It has seen play in Modern. It used to make the Mandalorian's armor. Is that a real thing? We're just going through alphabetical order, Black Lance Geo. You could build around this card. Is there any, like... There is no Clan Ironworks type of card in Vintage, is there? I'm already showing how... You know, I'm trying to look at Vintage from the perspective of someone who doesn't play a whole lot of Vintage. I played Vintage for like 1 month. And I guess this thing wasn't very, very legal at the time. It only restricted to 1 card. Affinity for artifacts? Yeah, that's pretty strong. I don't know if affinity in Vintage is really the thing, really the problem. How long has it been gone for? Mystic Forge is restricted. Why can I not find the original announcement? Oh, here we go. I found it. Okay, I found something. I found a little something. Okay, we got... Oh, recently, Karn the Great Creator and Mystic Forge have turbocharged shop decks by giving them more early game lockout potential through Karn's static ability. A tutorable win condition through Karn's -2 loyalty ability, fetching Time Vault, Voltaic Key, or Manifold Key, and card advantage in prolonged games, especially through Mystic Forge. Relating to Karn's static ability, Vintage is one format in Magic where players can enjoy playing with super powerful artifact mana like Moxen, Sol Ring, and Black Lotus. We'd like to reduce the number of games that immediately come down to earn early Karn, preventing the opponent from casting spells. Therefore, in order to make shop decks more interactive in the early game and more attackable in the prolonged game, we are restricting Karn the Great Creator and Mystic Forge. They literally wrote a Bible for Karn the Great Creator, and then they're like, yeah, get rid of Mystic Forge while we're at it. I can't believe that. No explanation for Mystic Forge. Sorry, Mystic Forge. It wasn't your time to go. It wasn't your... There's no explanation, even by Wizards R&D. They have no reason to get rid of this thing. It's just like, Shops is powerful. This card is seeing play in Shops. It's going down. It's like Karn the Great Creator is a problem. Karn the Great Creator can find this. Karn Great Creator, it locks down Moxen. Restrict Mystic Forge. That is literally the explanation that they gave. Literally the explanation. Unbelievable. There might be some backstory to this card that I'm not aware of, but okay. I can see it being like really pretty strong in Vintage, but like this is not one of the most busted cards of all time. I mean, yeah, you could build your deck around this thing and you just rattle off most of your cards off the top of your deck. It was restricted because of the Shop Stacks deck, which only had one flaw: card disadvantage. So this was the Ancestral Recall of Shops, that's what you're telling me? Ancestral Recall of Shops? Yeah, collateral damage. Emotional damage for the Shops players. Yeah, I'd feel pretty weird getting that BNR announcement. Karn is such a problem. It tutors for things. It locks out the opponent's artifacts. Restrict Mystic Forge. That made a whole lot of sense to me. Mystic Forge plus eggs was a problem in Vintage. Did they play with eggs in Vintage? Okay. I mean, hey, turn 1 Mystic Forge, it's not bad, because you could go like turn 1, Mox, Sapphire, then play your Mishra's Factory? Is that what it is? Mishra's Workshop, sorry. Mishra's Workshop, get a turn 1 Mystic Forge out. Sounds like pretty good value. Okay, so I'll say it's, you know what, I'm on the fence about this one. It's powerful. I feel like it was restricted for the wrong reason, though. All right, Mystical Tutor, blue instant. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. Ban and Legacy, restricted in Vintage. Question for you Commander players: how would you feel if they banned all the tutors? All of a sudden, your consistency would go right down the crapper, right? You would have no consistency. In fact, I have a feeling if they banned all the tutors, a lot of people's decks just wouldn't work anymore, because they really depend on Mystical Tutor on being like the second copy of, like, for example, I understand in Vintage, this is like another copy of Treasure Cruise. No, Treasure Cruise. You can get Treasure Cruise. You can get an instant or sorcery. It's another copy of Treasure Cruise. It's another copy of Dig Through Time. It's another copy of Ancestral Recall. All those cards get you more mana. Sorry, get you more lands. Sorry, it can't cards, which can be lands, which can be mana. Sorry, I got too ahead of myself over there. And we already know those cards already restricted. Not really. Commander has a ton of redundancy. A lot of cards essentially do the same thing. Well, because of the tutors. You show me a deck that doesn't have any tutors, that's tier 0. And I'll show you something that's in tier 4. But yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. It's basically a proxy for the other most broken, powerful cards. You can afford to end of turn Mystical Tutor to go put Ancestral Recall on top of your deck. You would essentially net like 2 cards, or you'll draw 2 cards because you're wasting 1 card on Mystical Tutoring for the Ancestral Recall. Duck, fun thing to do. Actual fun, not guaranteed. Read the ancient scripture on Secret Lair version of Narset Parter of Veils. It looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card or something. Well, it's nothing. Well, when we get to Narset, we'll do that. Narset is on this list. Grab me that modal face card? Why? Mystical Tutor can fetch Time Walk as well. It can fetch Time Walk. 2 turns in 1. I always felt like, you know, what's it called? Not Gataxian Pro. Mental Misstep. Didn't have a whole lot of targets, but one target it definitely did had was Mystical Tutor. Prevent people from getting the other broken stuff, like Time Walk. Which honestly, depending when you play it, may not even be broken. All right. Mystical Tutor. Broken. Next up, Narset Parter of Veils. Narset. Why? What, just to prevent the wheel effects? Is it restricted for the same reason like they ban Whole Breacher in Commander? The blue 1 generic 5 loyalty Narset. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. -2. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand, but the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. What is wrong with preventing people from drawing their entire deck? Or is it just too easy to go like Narset into Wheel of Fortune, into Time Twister, and so on? This actually seems insane to me. Okay, we need an explanation for Narset. Narset Parter of Veils. Why is this card restricted? It was restricted, I believe, on November 18th, 2019. Really soon! Like, that's basically the same year Narset came out. It was that broken that quickly, huh? Okay, following up on the recent changes to the restricted list and the results of Eternal Weekend North America 2019, we're making one additional change. In the context of the fast mana and efficient card draw available in Vintage, Narset Parter of Veils is contributing to a one-sided games at a higher degree than is healthy. In order to reduce the frequency at which an early Narset Parter of Veils static ability soft locks the opposing player out of the game, Narset is restricted. Do you know what? I think that is a absolute skill issue. That's a skill issue. Do you know what beats Planeswalkers? Creatures. Oh, you don't have creatures in your Vintage deck? Well, that sounds like a you problem, not a Narset problem. She's a Floodgate. I guess also the digging effect is quite good in the not so heavy creature meta. Exactly. You're definitely guaranteed 2 cards out of this thing. Oh no, a card that prevents you from drawing too many cards. Oh, that is so evil, isn't it? I can imagine whoever goes first with a Narset probably has a massive advantage. Because again, there's a lot of decks that rely on, you know, Treasure Cruise, Ancestral Recall, or drawing multiple, you know, Brainstorm, Ponder. So, especially Ponder, which is sorcery speed, it just gets its legs chopped off if your opponent goes turn 2 Narset on turn 2. So it's sort of similar to like a Karn the Great Creator thing. Whoever gets it out first is going to have like a pretty sizable advantage against the opponents. Me and my buddies decided Whole Breacher is fine to unban in Commander if we also unban Grizzlebrand. That is a weird conclusion. Okay, so hold on, what is this? The fun thing to do, actually not fun. Read the Ancient Scripture and Secret Lair version. Is it different? Hold on, which one? Oh, which is this? Is this Secret Lair? Okay, the ancient. It's not so ancient. Okay, opponents can draw only 1 card each turn. Put 5 loyalty, use counters on Narset. Opponent can attack Narset as though she were you. Any damage she suffers depletes that much loyalty. If Narset has no loyalty, she abandons you. You have been abandoned by Narset. No, please, Narset, I can change. Come back. I'll do anything for you. Once during each of your turns, you may spend 2 loyalty to look at the top 4 cards of your library. Reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them. Put them into your hand and put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Do not reshuffle afterwards. I like that. Like that little reminder text over. Don't reshuffle. Don't do it. You try to reshuffle. That would defeat the purpose of putting them on the bottom of your library. Too many butthurt players. I mean, I'm assuming they got their reasons. I'm assuming they got their reasons. If I'm a blue player and I have to face against this damn thing, that's probably really frustrating that I didn't win the die roll. And then, but I mean, you can still use brainstorm. No, you still can't use brainstorm because you can brainstorm. You could draw 1, put 2 back on top of your library. That would, oof, that would be bad. Don't brainstorm even on your opponent's turn. She abandons you. That's rough, buddy. Yeah, what weird template? No, is the beta templating? I guess that was the secret layer drop. Secret layer beta. Because they templated everything so backwards back then. Okay, is Narset broken? I don't think so. Okay. Now, is it it's not that powerful of a card, even for like vintage power level. It's probably just bad gameplay, that's all. It creates bad gameplay. The metagame, you know, not a lot of creatures in that metagame. Not a whole lot of them. This is why you got to play with Deathrite Shamans. You can do a single point of damage to the Narset. So when it goes to minus, if it minuses twice, it will then die. I wish Planeswalker still had that type of text. It's hilarious. No. What do you mean? They wish they still had. They never had that. That never happened. This is an illusion. You know, they're just trying to relive the old days of bad templating. I swear they just restrict anything in vintage these days. Well, when it's popular, it's popular. You know, I mean, honestly, to be brutally honest, this idea of a one-sided Planeswalker was absolutely stupid. Like, that was the problem. It should have been symmetrical the entire time. Karn the Great Creator says, F everyone's artifacts, even my own. Narset should have said, nobody draws more than 1 card a turn. I mean, that was essentially the problem. I don't know why they had to template it like this. That's what made them, like, too incredibly good. It's possible that none of them would have seen play otherwise. But they definitely saw play because it's like, screws you, but not screws me. We're going through alphabetical order, Rob. We're at Narset. And then I think I've said what I wanted to say about Narset. So moving on. We've got... Oh, Necropotent. You know what, Rob? Just for you, we're going to do Necropotence. And not because it was the next one on the list. Okay, black, enchantment. Skip your draw step. If you discard a card from your hand, remove that card from the game instead. Pay 1 life. Remove the top card of your library from the game face down. At the end of turn, put that card into your hand. Okay, this card is so powerful in the history of Magic the Gathering. I have no idea what the hell Wizards R&D was smoking to print, what's it called? Necro Dominance. Like, what do we need a fixed Necropotence for? I think Wizards should stop trying to fix the most broken cards in the game, because all that's going to do is incentivize people to re-break even a watered-down version of broken cards. Anyway, that's a super all-star in Commander. Pre-restricted in Commander, mind you. Banned in Legacy. The fact that you can just pay... I mean, yeah, you're going to have to discard at end of turn, but you can pay 19 life to get every single important card that you could possibly need into your hand. Yeah, old boy is like, but you skip your draw step. As if that matters. Not to mention in Vintage, you have like so much extra incidental card draw. Like, it doesn't even matter. This is 3 mana, draw 19. Oh yeah, that's fair! How many years of power creep do you think until Necropotent stops being busted? Some people think it's now. Some people, and maybe they're right. Some people think Necropotence could actually be unbanned in Legacy. And maybe some evidence to this is Necro Dominance sees like no play, like 0. It's either fringe or 0 play in Legacy. It's like it's still a 3-mana enchantment. It's hard to get through the counter magic in that format between like especially between Daze and Force of Will. So it's a tough call. We might be at the point where Necropotence is actually just fair, because Necrodominance is not proving its worth at the moment, and that you would think that would be broken there. Oh, a turn 1 Dark Ritual, Necrodominance. See, but like a lot of the cards you have to jam in your deck to make your Necrodominance good makes the overall deck sort of watered down. Is it on Arena? I don't know. I don't play Arena. I combo that with Pithing Needle and Fractured Identity. Unlock my opponents from drawing cards for the rest of the game. There you go. We even have modern day solutions to these old time cards. So yeah, you could in fact play Pithing Needle and like that's it. You just can't draw cards for the rest of the game. You might have 20 life, but that's all you're gonna get. Well, probably you're gonna pay like almost all your life to dig for an answer, right? This is not done at sorcery speed. Pay 1 life, remove the top card of the library at the end of turn, put that card into your hand. Can't you do this whenever? Why do people pay this like before the end of their turn? Shouldn't they just pass the turn and then start drawing cards? Whenever you discard a card, exile the top card of your library face down, put that card in the hand. Oh no, oh yeah, you only get it into your hand at the beginning of your next end step. I keep forgetting how Necropotence works. So if I pay my life on my opponent's turn, it's completely useless. Necropotence is banned in Historic, but not restricted in Timeless. Look at that, see? It just goes to show, if you, like, break open the floodgates, everything just sort of, like, balances itself out, sort of. Why would I play fixed Necropotence in EDH when I can play Necropotence? What's wrong with having another one? There's nothing wrong with that. We're just talking about Legacy right now, because it's banned in Legacy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think this thing is super powerful. Definitely ban-worthy for Vintage. I don't even want to know what this card does in Vintage. Although, you do get the cards at a delayed rate. It's not like anyone's going to punish you going to 1, though. Unless someone has that trusty gut shot. You're right, Toilet Duck. If everything is danger, then nothing is. Hello, not the Zilla. I don't play Vintage, but I am Vintage. You never owned any Power Toads? I always ask that of like a lot of really long-time players of the game. Very often people say yes, they once owned a piece of Power and then they sold it and they never got it back again. And that's it. That's the really common story from people who used to play back in the day. Because like, thing goes to $300 and you're like, wow, this game probably is not even going to last in the next few years. There we go. See? Confirmation. Can't sell that Power. If you got expensive cards, if anyone has reserveless cards, you got to diamond hands that thing. This game will exist for an eternity. Okay, Necropotence, you're supremely broken. We're in agreement. The Skullman should be restricted. Oh, Soul Ring. Arguably more broken than Black Lotus. And I am in that camp, actually. The 1 mana artifact, add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Tapping this artifact can be played as an interrupt. No, that's old templating over there. This is another card I really don't have a whole lot more to say. You literally can play 4 drops on turn 2. That's not what 4 drops were meant to do. You know, we have Commander players, they don't even know what a mana curve is, as far as I'm concerned. They just take things like Soul Ring for granted. They took Soul Ring for granted. They took Mana Crypt for granted. They took Jeweled Lotus for granted. They didn't realize, 6 drops, they're supposed to be hard to cast. Like, they're not supposed to be easy. And anyway, Soul Ring makes all that stuff easy. I have Guy's Cradle. Does that count as power? Absolutely counts as power. That's a powerful card. It's basically the Power 9 of our age, I suppose. My only power is a revised set of Prodigal Sorcerer. That's not very impressive. We don't brag about those things, Pabno. We shouldn't brag about that. Yeah, Commander is full of madness. I love it. I mean, Commander is effectively Vintage for casuals. It's casual Vintage. In some ways more insane. It's more insane in a way because you have a powerful card in your starting hand every single game. That's not even disruptible by hand disruption. Your commander. So in some sense, it's more powerful. Before Modern made the old stuff worth again. I have a proxy Badlands. That's power, right? Well, we don't tell on people who proxy. That's for sure. Soul Ring is better than Black Lotus in my opinion. So like the long story short is if you're a combo deck, Black Lotus. If you're not a combo deck, you intend on this game going to like turn 4, turn 5, Soul Ring. Okay, it's broken card. Super, super broken. Strip Mine! Oh, this is interesting. Tap, add one colorless, one generic to your mana pool. Tap, sacrifice Strip Mine, destroy target land. That's very funny in the format where there's not even... You're supposed to leverage the artifacts. Now, they do have lands. Don't get me wrong. People do play lands. Strip Mine is restricted. I guess... It's funny. This thing is restricted. If I understand, is Wasteland restricted? I don't remember. Can you play a full force Wasteland? Yeah, you can play the full 4 Wasteland. Strip Mine is the only one that's restricted. That is just weird to me. To a very large degree, a lot of decks play with a lot of non-basic lands. They can't even afford to go get a basic, so like Wasteland just acts like Strip Mine anyway. Unleash the Strip Mine! Of course it's better than Wasteland. You can hit basics. Strip Mine is completely busted, period. Especially with Crucible of Worlds, says Benjamin Berkeley. Strip Mine is the OG Wasteland. Way back in the day when we wanted to blow up anything at all. Where did it come from? What is the origin story to Strip Mine? Antiquities? Yeah, it was Antiquities. They really had a hard on for like land destruction back then. You know, we need to power creep Stone Rain. Let's make Strip Mine a 0 mana version. I guess they had the idea we're gonna make powerful lands like Mishra's Workshop and Mishra's Factory and so on. So we need an answer to them, a universal answer. Strip Mine. Oh wait, it's actually eating up all our mana at once. And I'm sure at the time with people winning with like Channel Fireball, this didn't really look that threatening. How come Modern doesn't have a restricted list? I don't know. You know, I brought it up, and Wizards R&D says no. We're not doing it. No wonder they printed Sinkhole. Well, that was in beta. When everything is broken, one with nothing. Yeah, one with nothing is broken. The fact that it comes in untapped too. Oh yeah, you basically can just point this thing at whatever land you want to blow up. Yeah, they were printing busted cards, busted lands like Sorrow's Path. Therefore, they needed to print Strip Mine. I mean, I'm just curious. Like, I know that this is more broken in, say, Vintage. Sorry, this is more broken in Legacy and like any format beyond that. I'm curious, like, if they unrestricted Strip Mine, how big of a deal would that be? Like, even with the synergy of Crucible of Worlds, I mean, you have access to Moxen, and some decks are just still going to threaten to win by turns like 2 and 3. We have crap creatures. We need busted support cards. Old Wizards of the Coast. Busted lands, apparently. We need that. What's it called? Mishra's Workshop to ramp out that Juggernaut. It's basically what they had at the time. That was the win condition of the time. Two basic islands, 4 Lorien revealed, and you feel invincible. Well, against Wasteland. I guess that's the deal. There's a lot of game versus Wasteland, but there's not a lot of game versus Strip Mine. Okay, Strip Mine still even too strong for Vintage, I suppose. All right, you heard the music. It's time to thank our sponsors, starting with FusionGamingOnline.com, my favorite place to buy my Magic the Gathering cards. What is the deal of the week? There used to be a deal of the week every week. What do we have here? Shop our weekly. I want to shop. Tell me all about it. Save 15% off all Return to Ravnica singles. Savings displayed in cart. So you put in your cart and you'll see the awesome savings. Return to Ravnica singles. It's gotta be Shocklands, right? Get your Shocklands at fusiongamingonline.com. In addition to other cards, any cards can get a reduced 5% off when you use coupon code Nikachu at checkout. It supports the channel. And we're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place to rent Magic cards online. Play any deck, any format you want on Magic Online when you're renting with Mana Traders. You can support the channel using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or you can play Vintage, too. It won't support the channel, but it will when you're renting with Mana Traders. Get 40% cash back on your 3rd month subscription using coupon code Nikachu_4VU. So if you're interested in getting into Vintage, I actually played quite a bit of Vintage, to be honest. I just made my own Merfolk deck. My origin story was I was playing a lot of Vintage Cube. And I wasn't getting a lot of power. Like, where's my Black Lotus? Where's my Ancestral Recall? Like, it's fun when I had them. So I was like, well, screw this. I'll just literally play Vintage with the Mana Traders account. Worked out pretty well. The One Ring should definitely be restricted to 1 in Modern. Oh, yeah, it'd be far less troublesome. Can't wait for They might do it. They might do it. They said it was a possibility. Okay, next up. Thorn of Amethyst. A 2-mana artifact. A non-creature spells cost 1 more to play. This is absolutely ridiculous. Vintage players upset that their cards cost mana and they can't just spew their whole entire hand onto the battlefield in 1 turn. Shame. What's next? Restrict Thalia, Guardian of Thraben? Is Thalia restricted? I don't think so. Is there even that much removal in Vintage? Why is this restricted and not Thalia? I mean, I understand that Thalia is color locked to white. Yeah, Vintage players discover tax. Paying 1 for a Mox is embarrassing. It's still pretty good. It's like, it's like a Mana Dork that you can tap for immediately. In fact, if you have multiple Moxen in your hand, you can play them all. Pay 1 for the Sapphire, tap it, play your Jet, tap it, play your Ruby. It all works out. Yeah, having to pay mana to cast my spells? So cringe. Absolutely cringe. How the F is this restricted? Like, yeah, let's go. I mean, I know why it's restricted. Let's see. It's probably like a shops thing again. Ooh, shops. Ooh, scary. Let's look up Thorn of Amethyst. Let's see, when did it happen? I bet it was an old one too. Let's see how old. Ooh, super old. 7 years old. Nah, page not found. We have no idea, and I can't go. I'm not going to go to the Wayback Machine right now. Was Tabernacle brought up? Tabernacle is not even restricted, believe it or not. That is, you can play a full 4 of those if you want in Vintage. There's no problem. Same thing in Legacy. I guess the problem is if there is only a little bit of 0 mana hate, it becomes one side because you can dump your hand first. That's exactly the reason. I mean, a lot of these cards that you see restricted are restricted because, like, whoever wins the die roll gets a massive advantage. Okay, I spew my hand out first. Play Thorn of Amethyst. Okay, pass the turn. Now you screwed. Even if you have equally a busted hand, you are now way on the back foot. You got to go second, and you can't even dump your hand at the same rate. It makes all the 0 mana artifacts cost actual mana. Same as stuff like Force of Will. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's actually a big one. So, like, combo decks or combo-ish decks, they can really get ahead with a Thorn of Amethyst on the battlefield. If you're tapped out, no counter spells offline. A lot of stuff on here seems to be limited so players can play their broken cards. That there is sort of a design philosophy, Jody, that happens super often in Vintage. That's like, I want to play my cards. They restrict Chalice of the Void because I want to play my cards. I spent 50 grand on my deck. Can't I play it, please? You would think. Is that true? Doesn't Force Will have instead of paying its mana cost? No, yeah, instead of paying its mana cost, but not its not its taxing effects. So you get to cheat on the 5 mana, but you don't get to cheat on the tax mana. Yeah, the tax is added. It's additional. Well, you trying to cheat on your taxes, Eris? You wouldn't be someone who would cheat on their taxes, would you? Don't worry, I won't tell the IRS. What stays on the coffee crew, what happens in the coffee crew stays in the coffee crew. It's good, but not that good. Yeah, it's added to the effect. If it costs 1 more, but I ignore its cost, so I ignore the tax mana. I have a feeling you're cheating on your taxes somehow. I have a feeling. Anyway, you do have to pay the tax in Magic the Gathering world. Did we do Library of Alexandria? Oh yeah, a long time ago. I think the card's an abomination. Like I don't even think it should be banned in Legacy, to be honest. Eris just openly admits, yeah, I am cheating on my taxes. This name is just an alias. No one's gonna catch me. Additional costs like commander tax bypass free casts. Additional costs. Huh? You lost me there. Anyway, Thorn of Amethyst. I think this card is not powerful. It's not that powerful. And I mean, I understand, but this is sort of an abomination of things that are on this restricted list. Outside of Commander, no, sorry, outside of Vintage, this card is pathetic. In fact, it barely sees any play. I don't even know. This was restricted like 7 years ago. It's possible it's not even like relevant now. Or actually, I mean, you can still play it, of course, but you can only get 1. That's it. Eris was really Jasper's Rab. It's possible. Okay, next up, Time Vault. 2 mana. Tap to gain an additional turn after the current one. Time Vault doesn't untap during its normal untap phase. To untap it, you must skip a turn. Time Vault begins tapped. They got it all backwards. These days, it's like Time Vault comes into play tapped, and then you get the rest of the spiel. Between Voltaic Key, Manifold Key, I don't know, maybe a Tezzeret or something. I don't know if anyone plays Tezzeret in Vintage. Also, like Urza Saga to find Manifold Key, that was like a big deal. Yeah, this card is supremely broken. It's Time Walk, but more broken. Well, you got a combo, you know. But the problem is the combo pieces are cheap and easy to get on the battlefield. Like this is 2 mana. This is 2 mana. Manifold Key is 1 mana. I can't remember what Manifold Key costs to activate, but not much. Like, it's worth it. Yeah, you can go search for the Urza Saga. And also, with Manifold Key, Time Vault, those constructs get bigger, right? That's value. Got to win somehow. Antaresk. It would it be playable if it wasn't possible to untap it in any way other than its own ability? Like it has hexproof or something? Or shroud? That's interesting. That's a cool idea. I don't know if I want to give Wizards like any ideas here. Yeah, what if you gave Time Vault Shroud so not even you could target it? Is there anything in the game that says like choose 2 artifacts and untap them or something? Or there might be hold on. How about Amulet of Vigor? Whenever I just broke it. I just broke the card. Amulet of Vigor says, whenever a permanent enters the battlefield tapped and under your control, untap it. So, like, even if the card had Shroud, like, even if it comes into the battlefield tapped, it would still untap to the Amulet ability. Okay, there's also untap all artifacts, or even untap all permanents. Well, Flicker won't work. Well, yeah. Flicker with Amulet in play. Yeah, that might work. Oh yeah, I forgot. This only works once, so this doesn't actually break it. So we need like Amulet of Vigor, Time Vault, and like and blinking effects. No, but you can't blink it. if it has Shroud. Okay, so actually you only get 1 extra turn, but you don't perpetually get turns. Interesting. They tried that were an errata, then rolled it back. It involved needing to skip a turn to add a time counter, and then had to remove the counter to get the extra turn. Yeah, I heard. And then it's gone. There is a way to make it fair. Remove the mono artifact and make it common. It's fair when everyone has 4. Well, no. No, it's not fair when everyone has 4, because, like, not everyone's going to play it fairly. And some decks have better tools to untap it than others. What did I miss? You can play something that blinks all artifacts. That might work. I'll never look at Time Vault the same way after yesterday's stream because of the custom card guy who made the... oh, yeah, the guy who makes Time Vaults. The history to this card is neat. The history specifically to this guy, even. As far as deciding who wins by a coin... As far as deciding who wins by a coin flip. Unwinding Clock or Blink Moth Infusion both untap all artifacts. All right, we're in agreement. It's broken. Too strong. I'm not gonna, like, here's another thing about Time Vault. It's one of those combo pieces. You can just let it sit on the battlefield for forever and just wait until the right moment. So it definitely should be restricted. Man, it must have been wild playing Magic a long time ago. So were there like no, I don't know how you make Time Vault infinite combos. Was it always broken, or was it only broken the moment you could... But they had Twiddle back then. So this plus Twiddle must be something. Yeah, we did Library of Alexandria. This is all in alphabetical order. We're at T. L is before that. Eris, go look at part 1. This is part 3. Look at the title, part 3. We did Library of Alexandria, I think, in part 1. Or part 2. It's always been broken. I don't know. I really honestly don't know how this is broken a long time ago. Oh, Icy Manipulator. Tap target. No, this only taps. It doesn't untap. What did you use to untap this thing back then? Like, I just don't know how it was abused in the first 5 or 6 years. I mean, there is a point when Voltaic Key was printed, right? So there was a point where they printed Voltaic Key in Urza Saga, and then, you know, Time Vault owners are like, wow, this is pretty good. Wasn't it banned in, like, the 90s? Yeah, when this... I definitely... Well, I mean, I don't know when they banned it, but when this card came out, I mean, that's just, like, an instant combo. Yeah, Twiddle did exist. I don't know if that was the main way of doing it. Not infinite, but the Time Vault with Twiddle and similar cards were still good. Yeah, I gotta take your word for it. That sounds just really janky to me. So basically, Time Vault plus Twiddle. So Twiddle itself is like, pay 1 mana, get an extra turn, effectively. But you have to keep it going. Unwinding Clock? No, this... Okay, you're talking about new cards. I'm thinking, like, how did the old cards break it? Twiddle was the main. It was banned in 94. Wow! Twiddle was it. That's it. That's all they needed. Twiddle. Where's a beta version? This stupid card. Pay blue. Caster may tap or untap 1 land, creature, or artifact in play. Unbelievable. You know, I was told by someone playing Lotus Field and Pioneer that if Twiddle was legal there, which it's not, Lotus Field would be completely broken and busted. If this card, it'd be able to win consistently by turn 3. I guess Twiddle and all the broken tutors. Oh yeah, so you go Vampiric Tutor, Mystical Tutor for Twiddle. What? That is so weird. I just remember sitting at the table with some guy twiddling his bone flute. Oh, come on. That's... What is up with that? Okay. Time Vault, broken. We didn't need any more convincing. Moving on. Time Walk! Another one. Now, to be fair, I mean, this card... If anyone's played Vintage Cube, it's very often just Explore. Because you like Time Walk, you do it on turn 2, and all you do is you draw an extra card and you play an extra land for the turn. That's it. That's it. Couldn't you Isochron Scepter Twiddle? Yeah, but Isochron Scepter was printed decades later. I'm just trying to figure out how they broke it, like, at the time. Back in my day, we went infinite with Time Vault just by using twiddles and tutors for more twiddles. How is 2 mana ever thought to be fair for an extra turn? From what I heard, they knew some cards were just completely broken. Here's the thing. If you're a game designer back in 1993, like, you didn't think like this game would go very much further than the first iteration. It's like you hope it does well, you make a few bucks, and then you move on with the next game. But the problem was that Magic the Gathering like exploded in popularity. Like they thought like out of a play group of 4 people, 1 person would own 1 Time Walk, and it's like not that big of a deal, you know? They fully understood that there were broken combos and broken cards, but like it didn't matter because mathematically you wouldn't own that many of any of them. Like, even though you could have technically 50 Time Walks in your like original deck, they just assumed people would just have 1 to 0, because that's just how rare Time Walk was. Like, if you bought even if you bought an entire box of Magic cards, you wouldn't have that many Time Walks for yourself and your play group. You could probably copy this with Fork. Ooh, sounds good. So kind of throwaway, it got printed just to get banned. No, I mean, it got printed. Anyway, the problem is the game got popular. Like, it was a smash hit. Like, that was the problem. And then all of a sudden, these cards are like, ugh, some of these cards are a little too good. And then, you know, they created competitive play, and then they had to slam the ban hammer. They had to slam that ban hammer on a bunch of cards. What's in your deck? Black Lotus, Channel, Fireball. Okay, you go in that group. Okay, what's in your deck? Sarah Angel, Plains, Healing Salve. Okay, you go play in that group. They like divided you in tournaments between like absolutely broken and then and you know, ponies. People trying to have fun. Tucking them under the bed in a shoebox after Magic got popular. 1994 Connecticut. We only had Legends and Revised. You hardly ever saw the cards back then. I think Time Walk is way worse than Time Walk. They're both the same. The skinless guys on the art show up on multiple cards. Oh yeah, that's creepy. Yeah, let's look at that. Very, 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 very creepy. I didn't even know what was the point of this art. It never made any sense to me. Why is this Time Walk? Is it that when I go back in time, my fleshes have been reached? Like my flesh is somehow dissolving through time. Best art ever? Not really. And then someone had to tell me there's clocks on their faces, which made a sliver of sense. I wonder what art direction Amy Weber was given when asked to do Time Walk. Okay, look. It has something to do with time, and it has to do with going for a walk. Figure it out. They're literally going through a skeleton park or something. It stands outside of time. That sounds... I like the sound of that, Ryan. That sounds epic. You have to pass through the rank on your journey, I suppose. You know, AI-generated cards, maybe they can fill in the gaps here. Evening, Nikachu. I'm glad to tell you we had a nice snowfall last night here. Did you mention Gush has a book written about it? I didn't know about that, actually, Nedim. I did not know. The face is a clock and is going for a walk. It's a terrible pun. As far as vintage art goes, Mana Short wins. Well, I know what that is. Somehow this feels powerful. The colors, they're perfect with the frame. They're an absolute banger. Take an extra turn after this one. You take it. Wasn't there a difference between alpha and beta? No, take an extra turn, unlimited. Take an extra turn after this one. Can't remember. It used to be worded strangely, maybe in pre-design, like steal a turn or something. Or destroy target player's turn. There's also sundials with the stone path. Oh, is that what they are? I didn't even notice. I mean, I noticed these things. I thought they were just like... In lieu of plants, it's like some sort of stone or gem. It's a real book with 100+ pages on how to use Gush. Is it even still relevant today? Dot11 says, I think there was one that was like your opponent loses next turn. Yeah, so oh, that's what it was. So, and it was reworded because it didn't make, because you could interpret it that they actually lose the game. They lose next turn, you lose. So this is better worded. Time walk. Okay, I think we're in agreement. Too powerful, even for vintage. Time Twister. I don't know how to feel about these cards. Blue 2 generic sorcery. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. By today's standards, we wouldn't even consider this to be even all part of the Power 9. It is just historically the Power 9. If we were to re-rate the Power 9, this would get kicked out, I think, for Soul Ring. Soul Ring is undisputedly more powerful than this. It's not like we put Wheel of Fortune in the Power of 9. Also, I would like to say, I'm not certain, but I think Wheel of Fortune would see more play than Time Twister, all things being equal. I could be wrong, though. Because discarding is actually more powerful than shuffling your graveyard back into your deck. I guess 7 cards guaranteed is nice, but just Windfall with a big hand deck? No, you could definitely do that. Yeah, Wheel discards the hand. And I mean, back in the day, you couldn't really use your graveyard for anything. These days, you use your graveyard for everything. For Threshold, for reanimation effects, for delirium, for flashback, and so on. Like, your graveyard is just a resource. So if anything, we should re-rate the Power 9 to get rid of Time Twister and add Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, it's really only played in Hull Breacher / Narset Orcish Bowmaster decks nowadays. The days of Twister for value are pretty dead. I don't know. Why would anyone Time Twister for value anyway? Like, I would imagine this is supposed to be some sort of combo card. Supposed to play it for comboing. Wheel seems stronger, honestly. Oh yeah, Wheel of Fortune definitely is stronger. But this is part of the Power 9. It's a classical thing, you know? It's how it was back in the day. Not that I was there back in the day. But how do we feel about this? See, it's funny. It's still banned in Legacy, as is Wheel of Fortune. Is it too strong still? I mean, it's totally fine in Commander by today's standards. Not to mention, everyone's going to get to draw 7 cards. And they've restricted Narset, so no Narset shenanigans. Although this plus Orcish Bowmasters is actually, okay, that sounds dangerous. So you go like turn 1 Orcish Bowmasters, turn 2 Time Twister. That could be a danger, okay? It could be. It sounds a little dangerous to me. Shoot your opponent for 7 damage and get like a 7/7 creature. In fact, if you can do that multiple times, you could probably do that multiple times. Especially since you're shuffling cards back into your deck. Oh, then put Time Twister in its owner's graveyard? Well, not until I play the next Time Twister. Yeah, I could see that work. It's because it's blue. Drop your Moxes, the land, Lotus, Time Walk. Get a new hand of 7 before they even get a first turn. That's true. Oh yeah, that's true. I like that. That's a really good line. You dump your hand, you play Time Walk or Time Twister or whatever order, and then you basically drew a second full 7 cards, and your opponent didn't get squat unless they can interact with you. Intelligent Discourse. In the old days, you'd play land, Mox, etc., and just slap down Twister and call it card advantage. That's like plan C at best in those Hull Breacher combo decks now, and no pure value includes. You know, I like that. It's a really good explanation. So basically, whoever goes first, again, winning the die roll wins in Vintage. All right, I can get behind that. I can get behind that. Time Twister, too powerful. That's how. Oh, Tinker! So many broken cards. Blue 2 generic sorcery. At the time that you play Tinker, you gotta sacrifice an artifact. Search your library for an artifact card and put that artifact into play. Shuffle your library afterwards. I remember when I was buying this card. I was only buying. I can't remember how many I bought. I think only one. But anyway, I go to the store. I go to the game store. And I tell them, do you have a Tinker? And they sort of gave me like a dirty look. And I'm like, I'm just going to play it fairly. And then they're like, yeah, sure you are, buddy. Anyway, that was, that felt embarrassing. And I wasn't playing it broken, all right? I was playing it fairly. I was like, I don't remember what I was even tutoring out. It was like Navinral's Disc or something. What's the craziest CMC artifact? I think a lot of people get Steel Wind things. Sphinx of the Steel Wind. That's one of the main cards a lot of decks like to go get. I think because I can't remember why, but having pro red and green is relevant. Oh, Bolus's Citadel. Forgot about that one. Okay, this Sphinx is the old one. This is the new hotness right here. Bolus's Citadel. It's effectively, you know what it is? This is completely legal in Vintage. This makes no sense. This is Mystic Forge. Now it costs a lot more mana, and you got to be in triple black, but it's still Mystic. It's the Mystic Forge of Vintage. So if you can't play Mystic Forge, you go play Tinker. That'll work out. Bryce is like, scroll that stuff. I'm getting Blightsteel. I want to win in some. I want to win through via Infect. Portal for X is not bad. Turn 1 Blightsteel was once the go-to. Yeah, it's not quite what it used to be. I think what is Bolus's Citadel way more likely you could win these days on one turn. So we have Intelligent Discourse, Bolus's Citadel, Sphinx, and Portal to Phyrexa are the most common targets, and Time Vault Key if you already have the other. If you got one, you got the other. Love Tinker. I love the old powerful days. Anyway, too strong. It's too powerful. Very, very powerful. Tolarian Academy. Now this one, interesting. Because Gaia's Cradle, I'll admit, that is a steaming pile of crap in this format. I don't know, does Gaia's Cradle even see play in in Vintage? I don't think I saw it once when I was playtesting it. Now, Tolarian Academy, anyone could splash this card, given the range and number of artifacts that exist. You don't say, Bell. Bell says it's broken. In the format with Black Lotus and the Moxen and Soul Ring and Mana Crypt. Yeah, and here we go. Rant and Dues. To be honest, I would like to see this in Commander. Yeah, unban in Commander. And I'll switch formats. This one relies on the cheap mana rock, slam down Moxes. Oh, look, here we go. Oh, yeah, and Artifact lands. Ooh, yes, the Artifact lands. Aggro Vengevine used to play it. Oh, yeah, I assume Gaia's Cradle, but that deck is pretty dead, and Elves is pretty dead too. Oh yeah, I'm sure Elves has been long retired in Vintage. Super long retired. Yeah, in Vintage, I could see an argument in Commander, but I actually don't see any argument in Vintage. This is just going to give one person just a obscene amount of mana. I did try to play it in a Merfolk deck of mine. I did find it slightly clunky, because if you don't have any artifacts, then this card's just bad. There's sometimes you have one landers with no artifacts. Or like, no, you have artifacts like Soul Ring that you need to cast, but you can't cast the damn thing because you don't even have Tolarian Academy. Tolarian Academy doesn't add mana by default. You forgot about the treasures, floods, and clues? I didn't forget about those at all. You know what? If you have unlimited treasures in Commander, good for you. The more treasure, the better. Ooh, Steve Cooper. Unban in EDH, I beg, as an Urza player. I would really like to play Urza in Commander. But I think if I play Urza, I'm just going to piss my friends off. Or because, like, it's just mostly a combo deck, right? I don't think they would approve. I get Sarah being fine because there's only 20 mana enchantments, but Gaia's being available and this being banned makes no sense. Wait, you mean in Commander? Unrestricted Academy and Strip Mine. Problem solved. That's right. Yeah, dirty little Urza. Kevin Hitt says, I used to play with a guy who played Academy all the time. He nearly cried when I Psychic Venomed it. Wow, that was a long time ago. Psychic Venom. Enchant land. When it becomes tapped, deals 2 damage to that land's controller. To be honest, I don't know why they would care. They're still probably adding like 10 mana a turn. It's probably worth the damage. Piss off my playgroup. Ooh, I wouldn't want that. Rolls eyes. Well, frankly, like, okay, I play a lot of Magic. My playgroup doesn't play a whole lot of Magic anymore. So, like, when they play, they want to, you know, like, they want to play. They want to feel like they're doing something, so. Otherwise, yeah, I would go for more infinite combos. Anyway, Tolarian Academy, busted. 2 broken. Treasure Cruise. Blue 7 generic sorcery. Delve. Draw 3 cards. I mean, it's just Ancestral Recall with a few extra steps. And on top of that, if you play with like, well, you can only play 1 Wheel of Fortune. It doesn't matter. Delving is not that hard. You play your Ancestral Recall, you play your Ponder, your Preordain. I mean, like, you play the cantrips. You will fill your graveyard within a good range of time. Not to mention, what's it called? This card did break Legacy at the time. It was a very strong card in Modern. It is effectively Ancestral Recall at sorcery speed in Vintage. There's no doubt about it at all. He didn't stack life gain. His favorite land was killing him. So it becomes Ancient Tomb, or are you talking about like a Tolarian Academy? Yeah, the poor man's Ancestral Recall. But this is that's the genius thing. This is 21 cents. For anyone who ever wanted to play with Ancestral Recall like in real life, there it is. You Commander players have no idea how good you have it these days. It's like a lot of people say, I wish I played with the old cards. You know, I want unban Black Lotus, unban Mox Sapphire and stuff. Like, you got very good supplements. This is a great replacement to Ancestral Recall. Treasure Cruise is basically the same damn thing. Would Treasure Cruise be broken if it was an instant? Oh yeah, absolutely. It's broken as a sorcery. It's completely broken as a sorcery. Powerless Vintage with all other restricted draw spells is my jam. That's interesting. Never heard of it. Powerless Vintage. Thorn of Amethyst isn't restricted anymore. It's broken. Yeah, it's broken as sorcery. We're upgrading it. It's already restricted and banned in 2 formats. Benjamin says, I wonder if anyone has paid the full mana cost for it. There is definitely a non-zero chance of that happening. So when I played Vintage, there were a lot of games where you have like 9 mana and nothing to do with it. I'm not gonna lie. Like you just like draw a Moxen, draw a land, and you're just playing land drop. And you have like a soul you have Soul Ring out. Yeah, hard cast for 8. Definitely has happened. I can't target my opponent to make them draw 3 cards. Trash. I forgot about that. Yeah, Ancestral Recall was literally target player draws 3 cards. This one is you just draw 3 cards. Okay, you know what? Maybe it's a little powered down. Yeah, those niche situations where you need to make your... Hey, it's actually not irrelevant. So you take all those Thassa's Oracle players, in response to them playing Thassa's Oracle with like 2 cards in their library, you go hit them with the Ancestral Recall. That being said, I think we can all agree that this card is still pretty Pretty. I mean, I guess for Commander players, they don't understand. But, oh, do you know what? In Pioneer, they can understand. The top deck in Pioneer right now is Arclight Phoenix. It's a blue-red Phoenix deck that dumps cards in their graveyard. Oh, and guess what? They play with full 4 Treasure Cruise. So you still want to play with Ancestral Recall, go play blue-red Phoenix in Pioneer. As of the making of this video. If you're watching 1 year from now, maybe it's banned. Okay, Trinisphere. Ooh. 3 mana artifact. As long as Trinisphere is untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 mana to cast costs 3 mana to cast. Yes, vintage players looking at this, looking at their hand of Moxen, they're not liking that at all now, are they? They hate it. This is basically a super Thorn of Amethyst, because now instead of paying 1 for your Moxen, you have to literally pay 3. I hate, like, even in Legacy, I sometimes get got by this card. Like, I'm on the draw, and then someone goes, like, what's it called? Lotus Petal, Ancient Tomb, Trinisphere turn 1, and you're just dead. Like, you're just dead. You're like, they pass the turn you, and I'm like, all right, well, I can play an Ether Vial on turn 1, but I don't have access to my Force of Will or anything beyond that. It's symmetrical, it's balanced. Well, usually one person playing it is overwhelmingly more powerful. This card gets so confused. It's not confusing. If you're playing something and it didn't cost 3, it costs 3. That's it. It's as simple as that. My local vintage play group has a saying, turn 1 Trinispheres will continue until morale improves. Well, first off, that didn't rhyme, and I expected it to. Second, I don't know what that means. Pretty expensive. I thought it cost less money. $31. It's 31 bucks. This is like one of the main taxing cards in the game. Especially because Workshop is unrestricted, making turn 1 common for 3-sphere. Oh yeah, like what? I don't, you know, there's a lot of cards on here. It's like, it's not that good. Workshop somehow completely unrestricted. That makes no damn sense. Library of Alexandria, restricted. Workshop, not restricted. What the hell? Yeah, how are you going to improve morale by getting taxed to death? Play more fair, I guess. Yeah, so it's the same thing as it's worse than Thorn of Amethyst. You get this thing out early. But that being said, okay, it's not broken. This is not a broken card. It's a strong card. This is just a feel bad for vintage, that's all. You play fair or you don't play at all. Oh, sorry, I can't even play my Ether Vial. I forgot about that. Like on turn 1, I can't do squat. I can't play Force of Will. I need to get like 3 lands in play. Sorry, yeah, I can't even play my Ether Vial. Is it a quote? Such and such bad thing will continue until morale improves? Yeah, I think so. Trinisphere was never played in Modern, was it? Would be weak in Standard. It's just seeing play now, actually. Trinisphere was this type of card that was always legal in Modern. Nobody played it. And now, for the first time ever, Trinisphere is seeing some play as the result of like the new Soul Land that came out in Modern Horizons 3. The Soul Land where you like put a 7 mana colorless spell underneath it, so you can tap it for 2 mana. Let her win. Show idea. Magic spells you'd like to learn to cast in real life. That makes no sense to me. Do you have an explanation? Do you have one card to explain what you mean? Correct. It's a take on the beatings will continue until morale improves. Several cards have to be restricted because 4 workshops are allowed. Oh yeah, so what you're telling me is we could unrestrict Trinisphere if Workshop was the one that was restricted. Anyway, okay, it's a softy card. This card is not that broken. Urza Saga! That's a fun one. This is recently restricted. I don't even remember why. Chapter 1, you tap for mana. Chapter 2, make constructs. Chapter 3, search your deck for a 0 mana or 1 mana card. I even tried to... I mean, this was a great combo with Time Vault, because you have 1 Time Vault, but this is equal to, like, was equal to 4 manifold keys. So you sack your Urza Saga, you find your manifold key, you combo off with Time Vault. I thought that was awesome. Anyway, the party's over. And there's like a lot of cards that could beat it. There's 4 Wastelands, 1 Strip Mine. The constructs were sort of cool to attack with. I don't know why they restricted this thing. Okay, we've got to look it up. Gotta look up why they restricted Urza Saga. What's your reasoning, wizards? They didn't explain anything. Since the removal of Luris, blah, blah, blah. As format, Vintage tends to evolve slower than others, generally taking some time. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, Luris decks featuring Urza Saga have had the top spot in the metagame for over the past year or so, often with representatives taking multiple spots in top 8s, both in tabletop events and Magic Online leagues. While Luris Saga is widely regarded as the top strategy in Vintage, the opportunity cost of playing 4 copies of Urza Saga in the format is simply too low. Nearly all decks run a suite of artifacts that cost 0 or 1 mana. Yeah, like the Moxen or like Soul Ring. Or Manifold Key. From Mishra's Workshop decks to Tinker decks, a number of strategies leverage this powerful land without narrowing their overall game plan. As a top 5 most played unrestricted card in Vintage, the restriction of Urza Saga is unlikely to remove it from many strategies it is currently played in. Okay, blah, blah, blah. They're basically saying too many people are playing this card. But what's wrong with that? I think this card's cool. I played with it a lot. I loved it. I had a lot of fun. It's like just a random win condition. And everyone, it did, a lot of people, almost everyone did play it. Not the Zilla. Funny story. Being broke, I only ever got 1 Urza Saga. It's restricted. Its restriction saved me a fair chunk of change. That's good. Do you play a whole lot of Vintage? Or maybe you're broke because you play Vintage. It is cool, but it does too much. I think it's fair. It was not worthy of being being restricted. They're restricting it because they're like, okay, this is too homogenizing. But not that powerful. It was great utility. Don't get me wrong. It was really cool, great utility. Not that powerful. Vampiric Tutor. What do I have to say about this card? Search your library for a card at instant speed, then shuffle and put that card on top. You lose 2 life. This is basically the same thing as Mystical Tutor, except for anything. I always thought it was weird. Why is the black tutor clearly above and beyond better than the rest of them? Oh, I lost 2 life. Oh, and now what am I gonna do? It's like basically a worthless amount of life. And all the other tutors have a massive restriction. Can only get creatures, can only get artifacts and enchantments, can only get instants and sorceries. Vampiric Tutor, get anything. Then what was the red tutor? Gamble? And it's like you get a card at random. This is just undisputedly the best tutor in the game. Richard says, I'm broke, so I can't afford to go play MTG or convince my girlfriend to play MTG. Just go ask for a bunch of free commons. Okay, Ricardo is going to say something about Saga. The problem about Saga is, if I recall correctly, that if you can copy it with another land, I don't recall the name, you can have all the 3 chapters at the same time. So, what's wrong with that? Wizard Coast pushed this cardboard crack on us all and got us hooked. Do no money. Okay, black is power at a cost. In this case, now high enough to put a cost. I think if they redesign this card today, I think they'd make you lose like 5 life or something. This 2 life is a joke. It's an absolute joke. Too powerful. Ooh, Vexing Bauble. This is a new one on the. This is definitely a new one on the list. We're gonna have quite a bit of a long show because I want to finish this damn show. We don't have that many cards left. 1 mana artifact. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. Pay 1, tap, sacrifice Vexing Bauble, draw a card. So basically, screw your Moxen. If no mana was spent, screw your Black Lotus. Yeah, that's a nice, wonderful 10 grand, or what is it? What is it up to now? 14, 15, 20 grand? I don't know how expensive a Black Lotus is these days. So screw it. It gets countered. If I go first, you get. Man, how chaotic was Vintage when Vexing Bauble was completely unrestricted? Vexing Bauble, a CEDH player. Ooh, that sounds great. Screw 4. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Screws Force, too. So, really hurts mana. Really hurts anyone that's trying to win with, defend themselves with counterspells. Screw your Ornithopter! The VTuber out there lost one too many Ornithopters. Banned because, yeah, it's the Fun Police. Man. What if all the Fun Police cards were unrestricted? Would Shops just be the best deck or something? But then you restrict Shops. Maybe it would finally balance the format. Yeah, and your Memnites. And Memnite gets screwed too. The first ability practically reads counter target Vintage formats. True. It's not wrong. But it also affects you. So, I mean, if you're on the draw, you could also get screwed by your opponent's Vexing Bauble. And remember, I mean, you have to blurt out your Moxen turn 1, because all the future Moxen still get countered. So you can still counter yourself with this thing. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, do they know? They should have just automatically restricted this card on, like, day 1. Get, like, a fire spell from your deck. Counters the kobolds. Anyway, okay. They're definitely not too powerful. It's just, like, it's the fun hater. It's the card that defeats the purpose of the format, more or less. Wheel of Fortune! Hold on. Do I have a applause? Wheel of Fortune! I don't know if they have an applause at the beginning of the show, but it's the best I could do. Red 2 generic. Sorcery. All players must discard their hand and draw 7 cards. So, it's same thing as Time Twister, as we discussed. If you dump your hand first and then wheel, you basically got a bunch of cards for no reason. It's very, how can I call it? It's very memory jar-esque. Very memory jar-esque. Yeah, just draw. Yeah, basically 3 mana. Don't even discard your hand. Draw 7 cards. The opponent can discard their hand, and you know what? Maybe you do want to discard your hand. Maybe you're fine with those cards being in the graveyard. Pat Sajak. Isn't he retiring soon? Those poor game show hosts, they're getting old. We already lost the guy from Jeopardy. I don't understand why it's called Wheel of Fortune, because you don't know what you're going to get. Or are you cheating? Are you stacking your deck, Benjamin Berkeley? Are you stacking your deck? It's like, I don't know why they call it the Wheel of Fortune. I already know what I'm going to draw. Yeah, with Vanna White. You already did. Ryan Seacrest took over. Oh, they got someone new. Do they have a new Vanna White, or is Vanna White like sticking it in? I gotta look this up now. Is Vanna White still on Wheel of Fortune? I mean, if I were her, I would like... I don't know what she's getting paid to just, like, touch these screens. You know, she once had a job, like a real job of, like, turning the letters over. And now it's literally nothing. And now literally, or I don't know, now, maybe for a decade now, I think she just pushes buttons. She's still there? Yeah, I'd probably still keep that job, too. Yes, Vanna White is still on Wheel of Fortune and will remain on the show through 2025 to 2026. That's amazing. All right. Good for her. She got a raise to stick around. Look, Vanna White, we know you want to go. Okay, so they're holding her back from leaving. That's how it works. She and Pat traveled the world to cut promos, then traveled back to America. Man, what's Vanna White's salary? Vanna White salary. Has to be. White has been making $3 million per year since 2005. Oh my god. And her contract was renewed in 2021 through the 2024 season. That's insane. People can't get enough of their Wheel of Fortune, I guess. Test, Nikachu, pressing and twisting and pressing a button are neither real work. Hey, I'm not saying it isn't work. I'm just saying I would, if I were her, I would still be doing that job too. Yeah, at least the super chat. Exactly. Okay, Wheel of Fortune. I know we didn't really discuss Wheel of Fortune because we really discussed Time Twistle already. Yeah, it's too broken even for Vintage. It's more broken in Vintage than anywhere else. Windfall. Blue, 2 generic sorcery. Each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discard this way. Same thing. How many Time Twisters do we need in this? How many Time Twister, Wheel of Fortune cards exist in this format? Is it Merfolk, Wheel and Hull Breacher, Emery and Jar? Yeah, that sounds great. Just, I have to make that thing. The game show is older and worth more? I wonder if the game show is probably older than me. How long have they been doing that damn show? Vanna can buy a Mox playset. Vanna can buy the entire beta collection, as far as I can tell. If she wants to get into the game. Frankly, I think the cards are expensive because random celebrities every so often do that. You watched it as a pup? I think, how long has Wheel of Fortune been around? How old is Wheel of Fortune? 1975? That's a long time. Was it always with Vanna White and Pat Sajak? Vanna has the list several times over. Yeah, why not? We're still talking about Wheel of Fortune. We're still talking. Wait, we got Windfall. I mean, it's a virtual Wheel of Fortune here. We're allowed to go back. You were 10 years old. How long has Vanna White been? Hold on. How long has Vanna White been on Wheel of Fortune? This show is completely derailed. 37 years. Good for her. That's amazing. I remember on there in the 80s. Well, I can't because I was either born or barely born or not born. Okay. Windfall, broken. Same thing. Oh, Yawgmoth's bargain. Black, 4 generic enchantment. Skip your draw step. Pay 1 life to draw a card. He craves only 1 commodity. That's right, cards. So this is... I never really got it why this card is more broken than Necropotence. Like, that is just weird to me. Like, yeah, you can get the cards immediately, but it costs 6 mana, which is like a big bottleneck for like any deck. It's so much easier to have 3 mana in front of you than 6. Yet this is the one that is like banned in Commander, and it's all actually completely... Hold on, wait a minute. It's completely legal in Vintage. Oh, sorry, it's Yawgmoth's Will. Yeah, this is... Okay, this whole thing is wrong. It's Yawgmoth's Will. Backspace. This card is actually completely legal for copies in Vintage, which is weird. Okay, anyway. So actually, it's like, this must be broke. It's actually not broke. They let you have as many copies as you want. Okay, Yawgmoth's Will. 3 mana sorcery. Until end of your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. Let's see the original one. Until the end of your turn, you may play cards in your graveyard as though they were in your hand. Cards put into your graveyard this turn are removed from the game instead. I honestly never played with this card, so I don't know how dangerous it is. I do know that, Underworld Breach is a very similar effect. I believe Underworld Breach is now banned in Legacy, along with Yawgmoth's Will. Oh, is it danger in Commander too? Yawgmoth's Will sucks. Somehow, I don't feel like this is as strong as it used to be. Like, these days, the graveyard hate is insanely powerful. I believe Yawgmoth's Will was the most broken before, like, we had incredible graveyard hate. We have Rest in Peace, we have Endurance, we have Grafdigger's Cage. We have a slew of tools to deal with the graveyard. Now, the deal is you could constantly play cards from the graveyard over... Until in turn, you may play cards in your graveyard as though they were in your hand. Cards put in your graveyard this way are removed from the game instead. It's not as prevalent since Storm is dead and Paradoxical Outcome is more of a plan B in its own deck. Yawgmoth's Bargain was restricted in Vintage for several years, then they unrestricted it. See? 6 mana is too much mana. It's not Breach, so it sucks. Wait, Underworld Breach, isn't that worse? Because it's like 2 mana, but you have to exile 3 cards, which is sort of quite a bit of a cost. Tormod's Crypt also nukes the graveyards. That's an oldie. What else do we have here? I don't think Yawgmoth's Will is playable anywhere other than Vintage. No, you can play it in Commander. You can even play it in Oathbreaker. You can only play 1 in Vintage because it's restricted. Okay, but with Breach, you can replay the same card over and over. Oh, I see. That's the advantage. Ah. That's a good point, Donnie. But Breach lets you replay the certain card over and over again. Yeah, that's frustrating. So, what is this just poop now? Is this something they got to reevaluate on the ban list? I'd be fair to say this card's not so powerful. Breach is like borderline powerful. So if you have to pay 1 more mana for this and the cards get exiled, isn't it just Isn't it just Past in Flames? Until end of turn, you may play cards in your graveyard as though they were in your hand. Cards put in your graveyard this turn are removed from the game instead. Or is it just like any future cards Past in Flames? So maybe Past in Flames is like only the current cards in your graveyard. This is each instant sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback. Oh, so in theory, I could get a creature. Oh, wow. There's a whole lot of creatures I want to go get in Vintage. Wills is a bad reanimate. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to say it's not powerful. I think we're all in agreement here. I don't even know what they get. Necropotence, probably. I had a jankly deck with Shaman's Trace, Jockohop's Fastbond, Nuke board, play cards from the graveyard. They're back. We'll replay. Oh yeah, replays Lotus. Well, whatever. But then, hold on. Until in turn, you may play cards put into your graveyard this turn. So if they want to play the Lotus again, it's gone. Sad Flute. Past in Flames is instant sorceries. No replaying Black Lotus. So that what you're trying to say? Is that big of a deal? So turn 1, Black Lotus, crack it, play Yawgmoth's Will, then what? Are you really saving your Black Lotus for later? Or are you saying it's free? So, okay, so I crack Black Lotus on turn 1, then turn 7 comes around, I play Yawgmoth's Will, go get my Black Lotus, so basically I had a free sorcery. Replays Lotus and Rituals and Storm decks. Is that even that big of a deal? Is it really that bad? You can replay all your destroyed Moxes. Well, good. You play Lotus, some Rituals, then replay Tendrils. That's what a Storm deck does. So, okay, are we saying it's broken or it's not broken? Maybe you convinced me. I'm a little on the fence. I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I mean, it's obviously a little bit more pushed for in Vintage, but outside of it, I think this card is just like a weird reanimate and a crappy crappy Underworld Breach, and that is it kind of danger, but maybe it doesn't. All right, that's it for today. Then that's it. That's finally the last card of all the restricted Vintage cards. Thanks for joining me for this conversation. If you want to be part of the show, you got to be here weekdays, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks to everyone who supports the show. If you're a patron on Patreon, you're a member on YouTube, or you super chat to be part of the show, or even super chat so other people are part of the show. And thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to the coffee crew for being here today. People like Intelligent Discourse and Not the Zilla, Toads, Bryce, MZ, David Groves, Bell, Dennis, Black Lance, Geo, Benjamin Berkeley, Pabno, Ferginka. I think I got Toads. David Sampson. Steve Cooper's here. Just tucked away out there like the raccoon he is. Ryan Egan. Because you guys are the crew. So as usual, my coffee crew, keep brewing up them coffees and we'll keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves and I will see you at the next cup.